Hey, everybody, welcome to Bound to Truth. This is Christopher Lopez. And sorry, I've been out for a couple of weeks, a little bit of a hiatus. Had some personal things to take care of that kind of hit immediately. And I'm sure you all know what that's like. That's just life in general. But I'm hoping everybody's having a great summer. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. And if you're off on Wednesday, Juneteenth, I'm hoping you're off that day too, even though it's off middle of the week. But hey, think about it. You work Monday, Tuesday, then you're working Thursday, Friday. Kind of European work week. Maybe it's an experiment to see what America will go with when it comes to working. I hope so. That'd be wonderful. Anywho, what I want to share with you today is before we begin, I have a new equal, not just a co-host, an equal co-host. You've heard him a couple times in an interview. You've heard him on the last podcast with Randy. This is John, and I want to introduce John. He's a new co-host of this show. And the reason why I want him to be equal co-host is because I've had a great meet with him the first time, great experiences going to certain areas and places. We also went to a venture out recently that I can let him share if he wants. But also, most importantly, his expertise in both the paranormal, extraterrestrial, and other things as well, but also his awesome, loving heart. He's a good man, and I'm dear to call him a brother and a friend. And so, John, I want you to go ahead, talk a little about yourself again. And I am blessed to have you on this show. So thank you, John. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Man, I don't even know how I can top an intro like that. You're introducing me like I'm coming out the Pope himself. Man, I appreciate it. Oh
You're
man.
welcome, man.
So I know you said equal, but when it really comes down to it, your hair definitely takes is the it puts you a league above me for sure. Absolutely.
That's
I
the
can't
only thing I'm
compete
good
with
for.
that. That
Right?
is not true. No. I greatly appreciate it. This has been a very interesting adventure for me as well. I never thought I'd see myself in a position like this. I was always kind of one of those people that was not me personally stuck in the shadows, but I didn't really take the time to venture out too far, especially when it came to communicating my experiences and my expertise with people. Now, I mean, I do it, but not like you do and not like this. This has been a blessing for me as well. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. But I mean, you were just talking about our experiences that we just recently have.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if any of our listeners have ever heard of the Iron Goat Trail. You have now. I personally have been there several times and had some great experiences. And I had the pleasure of taking a pretty good motorcycle ride out with Chris. He thought he was going to die a few times.
Oh yeah, gosh. I
we
was scared. I
yeah,
paid for your ferry ride back. I was like, dude, I don't care. I will pay for it
I'm
back. There's no way in
I'm
God's
I'm a
spirit I'm gonna
different
go back.
kind of biker. I didn't really realize that you were still fresh on the two wheels there too. Otherwise, I would have warmed you up a little bit now.
I
But
still had my training
uh,
wheels, man.
yeah, it was weird. Um, but no, it was a beautiful ride. We ran into a little bit of weather once we got up to the top, and honestly, that was an amazing day. And you don't always get the experience like what we had. We went up there because it's a haunted trail. The
Right.
Iron Goat Trail is an actual haunted hike, so to speak, in Washington, and we'll get more into that. But I think the most exciting part, at least for me, was the fact that we both got to have an experience there
Mhm.
that I haven't even got to have there, using my REM pod to communicate intelligently with an entity or entities, spirits that are still there to this day. And that was a beautiful moment to be able to take you up there and experience that, not just the ride, but really get a taste of something paranormal in an area where a horrible tragedy happened. Like the
Yeah.
energy there, you felt it yourself. The energy up there is just, it's sad, it's confusing, it's disorienting, it's
Right.
I just used two different words for confusing, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you just kind of, you go into it and you come out of it almost emotionally and physically drained, even though it's a very easy hike. Like it is 5-year-olds take this hike, but you come out of it just drained, especially if we go looking for what we went looking for.
Well, exactly. And it's funny, literally, there were 5-year-olds there walking around with their parents
Yeah.
and so forth. And I
Yeah.
would say this too, John, riding in there, like, when we made a couple stops and a little bit of traffic, we can feel like you can even feel the certain small towns we're going through had some vibe to it. And I gotta say this here being a Washington, again, me being
We're
from California.
not gonna mention any of those because they might come and get us.
I'm not saying their names. I'm just saying how about
Anybody
that?
who's been up that pass knows exactly the towns we're talking about right
Yeah,
now. And there's
and
those ones. There's a honey
and by the way, it's not with people out there at all. That's not what I'm gonna say. It's just the history itself, and
the energy of the whole towns too. It makes you feel unsafe.
it's different. And like I was telling John before, like each of the woods I've been to, especially there, it's almost like whatever energy's out there affects the forest and how it's growing and and what you're vibing and seeing. And I know that sounds weird, and people are like, well, a forest is a forest. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not. It has its own
No.
history. It has its own vibe. I think like any of us who are spiritual beings, express ourselves in different ways, and if that's either good or bad, and how we deal with ourselves. I think certain areas of the forestry do have the same thing, and that's just my personal thoughts on that. But when we got there, it was definitely a lot of vibing. Like I said, it was my first time using equipment that John's professional expertise brought in, which I'm grateful that he had. Even a headlight, which was awesome. I never had a headlight before, which I probably should always have. I'm a guy who's like,
we're gonna get you a headlamp. It's something good to have.
I'm a guy who's like,
Headlamp and a pocket of glow sticks.
I keep thinking I'm man versus wild, and I'm not. But like you were talking about, what was that device called again?
Called a REM pod.
Yeah, that's the one that was beeping, right? That whole
Yep.
thing. Yeah. And that thing, I'll tell you this, that thing was going off and vibing, and we went deep inside those caves, and we even went some deeper parts too. That I thought, well, we're screwed. This could be like the movie Descendant. We're going to be eaten by these man bats. And of course, oh, by the way, me being the idiot was like, I'm going to take a selfie walking on this log, and then I'm going to fall.
Yeah, and then at the moment, not even 8 seconds after, I was like, be careful. And if you fall, make sure you fall this direction, because you fall that way, you're going to die. Mm-hmm. And I shit you not, I hear, oh, and I turn around, and this guy is trying to take a selfie falling off the log. And he, not only is he risking his own life, but then he's leaning the opposite direction of the way I told him to fall. It was a great time.
Yeah.
I love bringing you up there, but
I didn't become part of the history. If not, then John's gonna have to open up his device. Like I'm gonna like, dude.
Well, actually, that's why we had to get the whole co-host thing. Chris isn't even. This is the ghost of Chris now. He's still up there.
I'm still there. I just somehow have a great extensive spirit, so I'm actually haunting this podcast. There you go.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi up there is phenomenal.
Oh, it's a spiritual Wi-Fi. You can't beat it. I don't care about Elon Musk and his satellite. Screw you, buddy. But anyway, so before we kind of talk about a little more experiences and some of the questions we asked, I kind of want to break down a little bit of the history of Iron Goat Mountain.
Yep. Go for it.
Now, a lot of people out there, nationwide, internationally, don't know about Iron Goat Mountain, but you in Washington are probably going to be mostly familiar because of a lot of tragedy that happened and so forth at Iron Goat. So I pulled some of the notes here in regards to the Iron Goat Mountain and so forth. And so bear with me while I'm looking at this here a bit. So basically, it was taken over by the Great Northern Railway, which was before it was called Iron Goat. And it was by a person named James J. Hill. And he hired a person named John M. Stevens to help do the engineering work on getting the railways going for the Iron Goat Mountain. And from my understanding, John, with Iron Goat Mountain, it was more of what? It was more of the logging type of thing, or forgive me, I'm feeling stupid right now. It was for what? It was trained. It was supposed to. So basically, it was supposed to connect from the West Coast here, right, all the way to the East Coast to create
Yep,
a trail to
that is correct.
it was resources of some sort, and but
Yep.
they were really rushing to get that done, just like no different than what we
Oh
do now.
yeah, this was one of those situations where it was like, okay, who can we pay to get this out here and get this up as quickly as possible? And some individual stepped forward and they were like, oh yeah, we'll handle this project. We already did this one over here and did this one, so yeah, let's do that. And it it was definitely rushed. Um, the
It
proper
definitely
channels were not taken for making sure that safety and honestly avalanche safety, because that's allegedly what the big problem was that caused 90 plus people to perish in this accident. And yeah, so it was a rush to operation for resource said.
it was for sure. And so basically, before it was called the Iron Goat, like it was bought by the Great Northern Railway by James J. Hill. Um, it was, I'm reading my notes here a little bit more. So when Hill purchased that company, it was actually called the Pacific Railroad. And he renamed it, of course, to the Iron Goat back in 1889, which is when all this stuff kind of started happening, basically. So, like John was saying, I were talking about, Hill rushed to get the project done. Stevens' assistant, who I told you, John, is Stevens' engineer, C was a CFB Haskell, who chose the location and named it after Stevens in that area, if everybody knows, in that so forth. Um, and basically was to construct that, but in again a very rushed way. And by the way, Haskell was kind of a huge drinker in a way, so maybe he had a little lapse of judgment when it
I
comes.
mean, you guys just throw that guy's name in Wikipedia and take a look at him. You tell
Yeah,
me he wasn't a heavy drinker.
yeah, exactly right. So when Hill rushed to get the project done, because again, like any type of project, you want to rush to get done because you want to, like anything, you want to create profit from the wholesale to create retail profits. That's a light and I'm a fan of capitalism, but there's light and dark colors of capitalism anyway. And unfortunately, this was the dark side of it. And
Oh
here's
yeah,
what.
this was that dangerous gray area that it's like, how much money can we make at the expense of the lives of innocents? We've
And
seen that way too many
yeah,
times,
exactly.
especially weirdly enough in the Pacific Northwest.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It wasn't just any innocent people here that were native. A lot of them were immigrants. And I'm gonna get to that. So when
Yeah,
he
Chinese immigrants. And
uh
this wasn't this right?
yeah, it was Japanese, but
Oh, Japanese. Sorry, I was
it's
couldn't
okay.
remember
It's
if
okay. It's okay.
yeah,
It's
no,
okay.
it was Japanese immigrants, and unfortunately, we had a horrible we have a horrible reputation out in the Pacific Northwest of using Japanese immigrants, or honestly
Right.
immigrants in at all, in those times to put up quick labor for cheap to nothing at the expense of a lot of times their lives. And this is another one of those situations.
Yeah, it was definitely that. And so basically 800 workers, mostly immigrants, and most of them were Japanese. That's when the things happened. And then what happened was there was two incidents. And correct me if I'm wrong, John. So there, one of the incidents was the avalanche with the train, right?
Correct.
That happened. That was it on March 1st, an avalanche roared down and killed at least 96 people.
Mm-hmm.
That is the largest toll record in any Northern American avalanche.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that continued on for quite some time. Now, here's the weird thing. It wasn't one incident. There was two incidents. So that one killed 96 people, right? That avalanche. Now,
Yes, sir.
that is not connected to what happened. I mean, I guess you could argue saying the avalanche was the cause of what happened to Iron Goat Trail.
Mm-hmm.
But after what we experienced and the questions we asked, it sounded something a little bit more potentially nefarious, or it could be
Oh,
excused.
absolutely.
And I'm not too sure
I mean,
because you had one that was
and that's the
96.
crazy part about it.
Yeah, yeah, there was one that was
Yeah.
96 people, one incident, and then
Mm-hmm.
now you got 800 that are dead in a cave, in a cave.
Yeah.
And the questions we were asking, and it's funny because when John, I wish, and I'm getting better with this. This is just me being a novice, working with John. Is that if I knew more of the history, I probably could ask more specific questions because I didn't know a lot of them. The majority were Japanese immigrants, and I think something could have maybe happen even more effectively, even though we had a lot of activity, if I had some type of maybe Japanese item of some sort, something familiar with the spirit. But there were some questions we're asking is what is it? Basically, in regards to the tragedy, was it an accident? Was it something more of a skinwalker, Bigfoot type of thing? And we kind of get an answer of both. And I have a theory with that, but I kind of want to see what you remember that too, John.
And well, to explain how we got these answers real quick. So some of you might not be familiar with what a REM, REM pod is. So it's basically a device that uses like almost like a proximity type of kinetic sensor to where so electromagnetic fields, also any form of kinetic touch or anything like that, if something gets close to it that's biological or produces energy, it goes off. The one that I have has specific directional points on it, so it tells you where it's coming from, and those directional points have lights. There's multicolored lights. There's a red, there's a green, there's like a purple and a blue, and then there is a red indicator light. First, I'd like to start off by saying that our first experience with this was that red indicator light. Excuse me, hiccup. Good Lord. That red indicator light turned blue. It doesn't turn blue. It has one feature, and that is red to tell you that it's on. So that was the start of our experience. But anyways, when we were asking the questions, we had the REM pod sitting down. We were out of range. I did my normal test. Chris witnessed it too, where I was like, okay, look, this is how it works. I explained it to him. I showed him. And then I showed him like nothing, like this can't set it off. This can't set it off. And we're going to go here. I'm going to zero it out. We're going to step away. And then we waited for, oh gosh, it was a little bit time, not a long time before we started, like something was brought to it. And you actually, I believe, started asking the questions after I was doing my normal, like, is there anybody here with us? Is there anybody who'd like to speak with us? Let me show you how this works. Like, this is a light, like make it light up. And then weirdly enough, and this is kind of why Chris has his own little spiritual gift here, is he seems to be a magnet for energy. He started asking a question. It was like, bam. There was some immediate responses like, can you make this light up this color? Can you do this? Can you? And it did, and it worked. And so he started leading the questions with like, are you here? How many are here with us? And I wish I would have recorded this on camera so we had more of it, because it's one of those things where it was like so exciting that we were getting intelligent responses that it started to turn into like a mental blur. And but yeah, no, Chris, if you can remember, what was it that you started asking that really started getting it going? Because he really did. There was one question, and I can't exactly remember how you worded it, but all of a sudden, it was like the REM pod was stuck. Like it was there. He had got the attention of something there that was like, I'm here. I want to talk. Like this struck home with me. Like
and we're gonna have to go back again too, especially with the history we got Noah now regards to it. And you're right, next time we have to record it, because it wasn't, and by the way, you're right, it wasn't planned to talk about this in the podcast. This is after the fact when I asked John, hey, you want to go on a date with me and be on this podcast and do this stuff? So that's my Bullwinkle voice. Hey Rocky, let's go and do this. Anyways,
that was actually a good impression.
Oh, do you share my Mickey Mouse and Sean Connery one? Anyway, that's for next time. Anyway,
I must ask you a question, but I was shaving it for later.
What is this Scotland you're talking about? What is this island? By the way, if you haven't seen Highlander, that would make sense for people who have seen it. So, anyways.
Oh no, yeah.
Anyway, so basically, me being the banker that I am about questions and tragedy when things happen, there's always some type of insurance to tragedy, right? There's I like, if we look at things with 9/11, we look at things with COVID, one of the things in the business sense, the world
somewhere.
Yeah, there's always an opportunity from a crisis, right? And somebody's going to earn big. And I try to find information if there was any insurance claims regarding the tragedy. I had no luck, and that's still to be continued to find that. I got to tell you right now, going the history regarding the Iron Goat Trail was very difficult. It was very vague on certain things regarding the history and the complexity of the deals and the details and the financial aspects to it. So one of the questions I'm going back in my memory machine here is, was this tragedy, was this planned, was this set up? Lights were going nuts. Lights were going nuts. You
I'm
know, it like they,
talking like all over. It was crazy. As
yeah,
soon as that was the one, it was like, whoa.
yeah. It lit up like crazy. And so when I asked, I was like, so what destroyed you? Was it a Bigfoot? Was it a skinwalker? Was it a Wendigo? Those started to light up of some type of entity that caused this whole thing. And that was interesting too. So I don't know, because again, we live in a lot of lore. You know, has a lot of great history in regards to that, regarding lore of the Native Americans here, and what they've experienced. And also the other question was too, which I thought was interesting, is like, was this set up? And that went
And there
on.
was almost an immediate response. Like it was one of like the REM pod. I actually thought it was broken at some point because it
Yeah,
just stuck on the green light. And oh, we had already communicated like if you can make it turn this color for
yeah,
yes, this color for no. And it was like just stuck on the green light, just there, and constantly and loud. And I'm not, and then it just started going crazy, but it kept ending up back on the green, and then it just stopped.
yep. And by the way, side note, there was some heavy cold spots that John and I felt. Now people may ask, well, you're in a cave like tunnel. No, we
This
felt
was
some cold
different.
spots, but this was
The
different.
temperature was like you said, mute. It
Yep.
was cold, but it was stable. And
Yeah.
then, but all of a sudden, while we had this communication, it was like in a zone around us,
Yeah. It was ice.
especially close to Chris. There was this like absolute frozen pocket of just cold,
Yeah.
just absolute cold.
It was crazy, and I didn't feel that more until actually held when. So John felt it first when he held the device, and I didn't really feel it until I was like, "Hey, you know what? Can I hold it to get that feeling?" I got the feeling, was like, "Holy crap!" Right? Because I wanted to see if it's something because of the device he had,
And
and
also, this was a very interesting thing is a lot of times this device I use and I just set it down and it goes. We had our first stage of communication. It was sitting on a fallen piece of the timber where in the cave where there was a collapse.
yeah,
And so while we were there, that worked. But then all of a sudden, it started like when we were using this device, it started working like almost it was feeding off of our energy, not the device, but
yeah,
the spirits were like using our energy through the device to be able to do that. And I was holding it, and then Chris got to hold it, and I'll tell you guys, the look on his face when he was holding it and he got an intelligent response was beautiful. You could tell that he was hook, line, and sinker right there for
yeah.
the paranormal investigating. He was like, "Yes,
I was,
I
yes,
am discovering the truth."
that's right. I have crossed the veil. I've opened it, and now I regret it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I tried to warn you. Once you really go down this path, and a lot of paranormal experts will tell you this, that it's like a whole nother world opens up to you where you experience the world you're in completely differently. But anyways,
Yeah, no, exactly. And we can, and you know, towards the end, I have some thoughts on that towards the end, regards to that, and kind of sharing a guy from the outside who's been interested in this stuff. I'm sure, like a lot of people, to kind of share my thoughts on that. But to continue on, so basically, we're getting both answers of there was some type of some type of crypto spiritual entity that supposedly caused this disaster, but it was planned. And so I was talking to John, I was like, well, that's interesting. Because what? Because they were rushing this project. Again, this is theory. I don't get sued by Washington State. Okay, this is just a
no,
theory.
no, no. This is all
All conjunction
theory,
theory. Yeah, yeah,
gathered
yeah.
from. We're not making any accusations. We're not, if trying to cross any boundaries of lawsuits or anything like that. But
Exactly. So the theory is what if, because the project was so rushed, it wasn't going as planned,
and
right?
not only that, but this was going to be a failed project, by the way. Like
Yeah.
this was already predicting to be failed. Like there were so many people saying that this can't be done, this won't work, you're wasting your
Oh,
time, you're wasting your
and
money.
and and also, side note too, John, it was starting to snow some snowflakes out there in the summer.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. I was
Oh,
like,
it's actually
yeah,
right now. I was just looking at videos at the exact area, not even a half a mile away from where we were. It's snowing right now.
see, again, case in point. So bad area. So basically,
horrible for the snow, especially back then. It was rough. It's
Yeah.
mild it
So
out a little bit here, but we're just in our planetary cycle. But I can't imagine what it was back then, especially if you're in that coldest period of our planetary cycle.
yeah,
Probably like being in Alaska.
yeah, exactly. And so like I'm a fan of ambition. I'm an ambitious guy, but at the same time, ambition won't work without planning. And so this project was really heavily rushed. And I'm wondering if the powers that be, again, theory, is that this has failed. We know it's not going to work. This is going to go downhill. We got a bunch of immigrants,
Yeah.
right? They don't have any close kin here. What if there was a quote tragedy was to happen? We had this train that happened and so forth like that. So what if we caused a tragedy? Now people are asked, well, how can you cause a tragedy and have like Bigfoot or Wendigo or skinwalkers involved? Well, again, we were working with a lot with the natives too. And I'm not trying to
Not
say
only that, but we live in a world full of spiritual good and bad and evil that is as ancient as time itself. There are certain organizations, and I'm not even going to say their names out loud right now because then we'll just be on a whole nother tangent about who they are and what they are. But there are names that people know. They're not exactly household names, but they run the world, and they have been running it since the times of Western
right.
United States. And these people have always had their hand in the cookie jar of evil of
Yeah,
satanic worship.
exactly.
Speaking of which, you got a watcher right behind you, Chris. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, where? Oh, a bird? Get out of here. Get out of here. Not today, Satan. Anyways, little bird.
He went as soon as you brought that up. The what is it? People say birds aren't real.
Yeah.
They're watching. They're
The
watching
frozen
you.
year. And by the way, when I go back with the
Yeah.
with the
But
native
anyways,
when I go back with the native comment, I want to make sure to make this clear. This is not accusing any native tribe or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. Who knows if there was some type of deal done with somebody who had some type of connection to knowledge of something of that nature regarding the belief of what the natives had to deal with in their own American experience with skinwalkers, Wendigo, and so forth to cause this potential tragedy.
yeah.
And because, like I said, and this is going by what we asked the questions box, there was something both there that caused it and that it was planned. Again,
Yeah.
that's the theory. This is not,
And it's in its theory, it's not accusatory of
yeah,
anything too, because we're not accusing Native Americans of any involvement in this whatsoever. We are just
yeah,
using it as an example because, and honestly, we probably should do an episode on the lore of things like the Wendigo and
yeah,
Skinwalkers, what because those are deep rooted with our Washington Native Americans and the treaties that they have with these spiritual beings,
exactly.
and so that's why we bring them up too, because it's not only that, but it's a weapon that in their lore and in their history and in their tales that they tell us that they use and have used,
Yeah,
because they
exactly.
have these
Yeah.
little bit these, like, so to speak, ceasefires with them too. So again, it's
It's
all theory.
Yeah,
um
exactly. And,
yeah.
and listen, I'll tell you this, there's always been deals made behind the scenes with anybody and so forth. So again, not too sure if that was the kind of deal made because it wasn't like how do you cause a tragedy from that? And I know people can blame the avalanche, but I'm gonna tell you right now that didn't what was weird is I just can't see it being an avalanche. I just don't being in there.
When you are building, and people weren't stupid about avalanches
Yeah.
back then, there was
Yeah.
Alps trains that were built in other countries and whatnot. When you are building a train and you are working on a project there, what is the number one thing that you do in an avalanche zone? And an avalanche zone is any zone that is on a hillside that has a steep grade to it and gains a lot of snow. Is you do avalanche blasting, and they even did that back then. It's not as advanced as what we do now, but they went out there and
It
they
was still
fired
incredible.
off
It was
big
still
rounds of
incredible.
dynamite, and
Yeah.
yeah, they still had the works of where they were doing it. And you're going to tell me that this major artery that was supposed to change the world and transportation and bring goods from point A to point B, they neglected this during a period of time where there were people on there. They thought, yeah, we're going to send everyone down this way,
Yeah.
and we're not going to make sure that our zone is clear because this is not important. That's suspicious.
Well, it is suspicious too because like even when we were in there, John, in the caves, um, no, I mean, no pun intended, it was rock solid inside. Not, and also not discounting the structures of the wood that was above there that was still connected, and how
This, yeah, and
fresh the wood.
yeah,
Yeah,
even the wood that was fallen and on the ground, sitting in water and rotting, it still like it was there. It was I could build a house with it right now.
it's fresh.
That's how
And that's
sturdy the
important.
materials it was.
And it was incredible too because it wasn't like potentially petrified wood. I'm not sure how long petrified wood takes, but it was like I was telling John, I was like, dude, this wood is like still fresh wood that I cut from my, wood for my tree like 2 years ago. This is incredible. Like it's just preserved history. So again, those the things we're saying is theory, but I think that potentially what happened is that the project wasn't going to go well, and there had to be maybe a potential insurance claim, and this is what happened: is that a tragedy struck and something caused it. What was
In
that? I'm
case
not
it,
sure.
yeah, in case anybody was curious, 114 years that wood has been laying there
Yeah,
in the elements, in water, in snow, in freezing cold, in
yeah.
people coming in and out of it, in whatever else was going on when they were doing investigation, and it still looks like it did when they put it up. It still has the charring tarnish on it. It still looks very usable. And honestly, if I could take out some of it and use it to build a house, I probably would, and I would trust it. It's
Oh,
sturdy.
it was still sturdy,
They did not.
especially yeah.
This was not something that they were taking lightly when they were building this. So this incident kind of doesn't make sense to us. And there's a lot of other people that share this opinion, especially historians that live in that area.
Yeah.
Um, I know that there's another individual that we are in contact with that has a lot of information about the Iron Goat as well.
Hmm.
Somebody else that if this takes off, that we might want to talk to him about that
Hmm.
because he's been up there quite a few times too, and he knows some people out there too, and he might know some stuff that we don't. But
Well,
like we said, this is all here. It's not exactly hearsay, but it's we stumbled across something. We reached a point where we were curious, asked questions, and we're both seekers of the truth.
yeah,
And a lot of times the paranormal wants to tell us the truth.
yeah,
And
exactly.
we look at something here and it looks suspicious,
Mhm.
and this whole situation screams suspicious. And
Agreed.
we're just digging into it a little bit more, and we're running into some obstacles here. And when you look at a tragedy where this many people died and there is so little information on the incident, on the project, on the happening, on everything,
And
those are red flags. These are
very
serious
little,
red flags.
very little information. I mean, you and I talked about things from like, dude, I'm having a hard time finding anything. I barely
Yeah,
the information I found
it's it
regarding Don James Hill was tough enough, and still doesn't give us information, regarding
we can look up Abraham Lincoln's shoe size, and I can't find enough information
yeah,
on this to put my mind at ease and be like, crap, this was a tragic accident.
yeah.
Come on, that's
Well,
weird.
like everything else, the truth that there's the truth, there's a tragedy, but there's also the narrative that is controlled. And
Exactly.
yeah, and like I could say, I can understand the avalanche with the train because the train that happened with the avalanche was outside. This was inside a very sturdy cave that was, that still has its wood bearing structures connected to the cave itself. Even though it
And
was, yeah.
even the avalanche, and again, like we said before, this is a tragedy.
Mm.
Lives were lost there. A lot of people died. You can't tell me that this major thing that they were doing, they were not being preemptive with their actions on making sure that there wasn't something like an avalanche. Because
Right.
do you really want to waste however there's another thing, I could not find any information about how much this project money was used on this project, and not or how much money anybody got from insurance, which there's records of all that kind of. I can go back dating to uh saloon fires in
Yeah.
1800s where there's records of how much insurance money they had, and there's nothing on this.
It's freaking Jimmy Hoffa is what it is. I mean, that's the thing. As I was like I said, I was really surprised. It's like again, this is just here in Washington, and when we talk about like trying to find truth about government conspiracies and all this stuff and so forth and all that. We got, there, that's hard and that's expected. This one was not expected, my opinion. Like,
No, I did not. This was one of those things that was cut and dry. It's like, oh, there was a horrible accident. There was a horrible avalanche. There's going to be tons of information. There's going to be this, that, and the third. Let's dig into it a little bit. There's a lot of paranormal activity that goes up there. So I'm going to take you up there. And then really, and honestly, I had never really dug too deep into it until after we had this experience and we started asking some questions. And I was like, wait a second, this is something doesn't smell right. And I start Google, Wikipedia, history books,
Reddit,
local history, Reddit. And Reddit, you can find anything on Reddit. I'll bet you anywhere right now somebody knows what's in my wallet on Reddit. That's how much information is on Reddit.
They could talk about the Mountain Dew monkey puppy baby on Reddit. I mean, geez, Manila, dude.
Yeah.
But
you can find anything, and you can't find jack diddly on the insurance payout, on the financial gain, on any parties, on the payout towards the individuals that were neglected and their lives were lost. You can't find information on the recovery project for the trains. You can't find information on the recovery project for the bodies. There's so much missing information on an absolute tragedy. That's weird.
Well, it is, and honestly too, and especially back then, like I said, with the immigrants, where they're mostly immigrants, right? I could put pennies to dollars here that there wasn't any insurance plans paid out. There wasn't.
1910. It's not like this was in the 1650 or 1617 or 1800s.
Yeah,
1910. This was in our 19.
Yeah,
and this was not that long ago.
Yeah, and I don't think there was, because again, who's going to file?
Exactly.
What gonna file?
Exactly.
If it's like a father, usually pretty much men who are trying to maybe send money back home, again, I don't know, but who's going to make a claim? Who's going to listen to them? I mean, we still see that today. And so,
oh yeah, all the time.
And so to me, this project had to have an insurance claim. What business would not have some type of insurance? I mean, we have to pay insurance. I pay insurance in my home. I pay insurance on my vehicles because, hey, crap happens, man. Stuff happens, right? So why wouldn't you put insurance on some type of big investment project? There had to be some type of insurance. I mean,
that's the thing. You can't get into this situation without having insurance. I could be wrong, but would you want to spend however much money? And again, we can't find information on how much money this individual spent to have this artery. Excuse me, man, these hiccups are killing me. Have this artery opened, which is also strange because who doesn't, when you have a lot of money, somebody like, honestly, Elon Musk isn't that flashy, but I probably shouldn't say the other guy. That's how you get sued. When you have a lot of money, what is one thing, if you're a flashy bigwig, that you love to do? You love to talk about how much money you spent on your boat, how much money you spent on your house, how much money you spent on your railway, how much money this costs, your ranch, your farms, your this. You're like, oh, you don't just be like, oh yeah, I built a railway. You did what? Oh, how much did it cost? It's not really important. There's no way. You're like, this was millions of dollars. I spent this much amount of money on it. This is how much I spent on this. This is how much I spent on this. Look at me. I'm important. I'm big. And there's no information.
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
And people think that, well, insurance was different back then. And people say, well, maybe insurance claims were different back then. I can argue to differ, just to let you know the example of the Titanic back then, right? That wasn't far too different. JP Morgan, right, had with insurance with the Titanic, and guess what? The day he was supposed to go on that Titanic, what did he do? I'm good.
He didn't go.
Yeah.
And what happened? The Titanic was insured for, wasn't it insured for quadruple?
Oh yeah.
What it was worth?
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, people are like, well, that's just coincidence. It's possible, but the coincidence or not, conspiracy or not, the point is that insurance claims.
The iceberg was a government spy. No, I'm kidding. Iceberg was, but no, right?
But the point
And
is
these
they're
are those
trying to,
things where
yeah.
you, as a truth seeker myself and
Mhm.
yourself, I look at this and I go, okay, all right, man. You didn't want to go on your maiden voyage of something. Well, listen, the Titanic was revolutionary. It was amazing. It was the absolute pivotal peak of luxurious sea travel. You
Mhm.
can't tell me that you don't want to sit your happy ass on that, sit back and look at all the people enjoying the fruits of your financial labor.
Oh, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
I'd be
It
sitting on the
It's
captain's
why,
deck,
like, why would you miss a
beer in
grand
my
opening?
hand.
If it's my business, if I'm opening a bar, right? Why am I not
I'm
going to be there
there.
for the grand
I'm
opening?
serving the drinks. I'm walking
Dude,
around the deck.
I'm
I'm
greeting
going,
people.
look at this is my boat. This is my
Yeah.
boat. Oh, I built this. My money has it. Like, and the same thing with the railway. Think of all the big wigs back in the Western times. They were there on a train
Mhm.
following behind the labor that was putting down the tracks going, this is my railway, how dare
Right.
you, this is my, here's my money. Every single time there's movies about it, books about it, and there's history that talks about it. And that's what you do when you have this kind of money, when you do something that's amazing, is you tell the whole world how amazing you are. But this guy, he is either the most antisocial mother flipper out there, or he is sketchy.
You know what though? I think it's more sketchy because you look at Howard Hughes. He was more antisocial, OCD type of person. He still was proud of his babies, you know, and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So to me,
Well,
so
look
to
at
me, yeah.
Elon Musk. Here's a revolutionary individual who, um, let's just talk about the kind of money that he makes. He's not exactly flashy with it, but there's occasional moments where you'll see an interview where he's like, "Yeah, I could buy this entire planet over like 50 times and have the money back by the end of the night." Like
Yeah.
and he doesn't. He's not all in your face about it, but you know it
Yeah.
because he's talked about it and you see it and you want it. But back then, you didn't have the TVs and the social medias, so your mouth
Right.
and
So
how
your
big and like
presence presence is more important.
blurting out
Yeah.
everything you were, your presence was what made you important. That's why those bigwigs, when they were building those trains, they were on an engine right there,
Yeah.
watching it being built, sitting back, sipping their brandy, getting out and dealing with the crap. And every now and occasionally when they come into a town that people were excited that this railroad was coming for, here walked out the guy who's financially running the whole thing. He would come out, he would wave, and he would say, it's because of me that this is happening.
And you know what? I'm curious
And
too. I'm curious too, John, is like how would those certain towns in that area would be today if that was successful?
what's the name of that little, I took you and I stopped you by there.
Sultan, wait, talking about the towns?
No, I'm talking about the one that was just outside of there.
Wasn't
I'll Google it real quick.
Sultan or Gold Bar or
Oh no, Sultan and Gold Bar, those ones. I mean, those were booming still even after that.
okay. Yeah.
It was the little one that we stopped and I showed you that motel. Oh, Sky Comish.
Mhm. Mm.
You got to think of how Sky Comish, and listen, if there's anybody out there that's from there and knows people from there, I'm not hating on it. That is one of the most beautiful areas that I can possibly imagine is
Oh
living
yeah,
there. I would love to
we
live in
rode
Sky
through there.
Comish, but also
It's beautiful.
I know what you guys deal with every single winter. The fact that it's like the end of the world every time it snows up there, and I don't know how you do it, but anyways, think about it. If that had become the major artery of the area, booming, Sky Comish could be a Seattle easily, or a
Oh,
Leavenworth, or something
to this day,
major,
to this day, it would be because it
instead of a
would.
tourist attraction filled
Yeah.
with people who have a love for living there. And honestly, you guys are the real heroes just
Yeah.
living up there.
And,
What was
and
it, 2 years ago? You guys got snowed in so that they had to have FEMA come in and bring you guys food. That's rough. And
yeah.
that's the kind of country. And think of it back then when we were in a warming cycle of planet. That actually, I'm going to see if I can, while we're talking about this, pull up what our planetary cycle was in 1910.
John and his.
I believe, yeah. Oh, we were in a rapid decline from the sun in 1910. So we were in what's called a freeze period, which we have these for anybody who doesn't know what a planetary cycle is. um uh, there's probably people old enough to remember when Bill Gates was telling us that the world was going to end because of global warming. Let me explain global warming to you real quick. Our cycle goes in these, or our planet goes in
Yep.
these massive cycles where
Mm-hmm.
it gets hot, it gets cold, it gets mild. And it does that every, oh gosh, what was it, 200, 300, 400 years, something like that. And it's predictable.
And
We
by the
can
way,
literally predict it. So when Bill Gates came out, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, John, if this makes sense, if when you talk about planetary cycles, because if I can lay it down to terms, is that the world doesn't evolve around the sun in an equal way. It revolves, right, but not in a perfect circular
It's
way.
like a weird egg shape, and it
Yep.
doesn't do it the same way every time,
Yep.
but it is predictable, but it's predictable within 50 to 100 years. It's not one of those things where I can be like, on this day, 20 years from now, it's going to be probably this temperature.
Right.
You might get close, but because of the cycle, people like to use these cycles as a fear tactic. And global warming, yes, real, but it has been happening since the earth was formed.
Right.
It gets hot, it gets cold. Sometimes it gets colder than other times. We had a very severe time that was called the Ice Age. And then we had a severe period that was called the Alex Age, which is an age of heat.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1910, we were in a further away from our sun type of period. So they probably were dealing with some serious winter weather. And once again, we're dealing with serious winter weather in a mountain area, building a train track. You're not going to risk an avalanche unless you're dumb or sketchy.
Yeah, exactly. And thanks for sharing that information too, because I mean, I'm glad you shared that more in a scientific sense, because that's what I learned about too. Again, not trying
It's
to,
and its technical term is called a planetary thermal cycle.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for
yeah.
anybody who wants to Google it, if you Google planetary thermal cycle, you will come upon a gist of the information that I just threw out there.
But John, isn't the world flat?
I
No.
I mean, if you're that kid that nobody wanted to play with at recess, yeah, sure. I can't tell you if it's flat or not,
Is it
but
permanent? About
I can tell you my theory if you want me to get into that real quickly. I
go
can
for
tell
it,
you
go
that
for it.
I truly believe that our planet is significantly larger than they tell us.
Really?
Because I have a friend, and I'm going to be very vague with this.
Sure.
I have a friend who flies something that is very fast and you can't shoot down for our government. Some people might come to this conclusion. I'm not going to list it because there's so very few pilots out there. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want him to get in trouble because I actually don't know if he can tell me that he flies this thing or not, but he did. So fuck you, government. Uh, he explained to me how fast this thing goes and how long it takes it to go around a full revolution around our planet, which he has done. And the math, and I can't remember, I will have to do another episode on this. This will be a fun one, is there the theory of our Earth. The math doesn't add up. The speed that he's going with the size of the Earth that they tell us it is not okay. At the speed he was going, if it was that as large as they say, as what we are told it is, he would be able to circle the Earth almost 3 times in the amount of time that he said he did. And this was one of those things that he brought up to me. He goes, listen, man, said, I worked on this project and I did this, and this is really weird. And I just need to tell somebody about it. He said, I did I circled our globe, which we did, and I did it at this speed in this amount of time. And I was curious, I didn't really know how big our planet was. He said, so I Googled it and I saw what the measurement, our guesstimated circumference of the planet is. And it doesn't make sense. He said, it doesn't make sense to me. I talked to somebody else and it doesn't make sense. And when he was telling me this, I was, my fingers were on fire on my keyboard. I'm like, how big around is the planet Earth?
Right.
How long does it take you to get across how fast do you have to go to do? And I was through and I crunched my numbers. It hit, no. Our planet has to be significantly larger than what they tell it is. And I'm waiting to hear the helicopters outside of my door. Oh,
And there could be a lot more islands and landmass we don't know about.
but anyway, we're getting off topic,
I
but
know,
we're
I know,
good
I
at
know,
that. This
I know.
honestly, we're not, we're here for the truth, and
Yeah.
sometimes the truth takes us on tangents. And I don't know about our listeners, but I hope you love our ADD little
Oh yeah, yeah. We can go on. We can go
that
on
we do
for
every now and then.
yeah. So
Yeah, but
but go ahead, go ahead.
I completely lost track of what we
No, no,
were.
it's
I mean,
okay.
we're talking about the
So
Iron Goat, but I
so
can't remember what got us to the circumference of the Earth.
no, no, it's okay. Well, the bottom line it was just talking about more about well, I think what got us there was because we were talking about the
Huh.
planet cycles and the
Yeah.
weather, and then we went to the size of it. So everybody follow the track. That's where the error ADD, my OCD goes. That's how it works. So thanks for bearing with us on that fun trail moment there.
Yeah.
But
It's what makes us exciting is we're not scripted at all.
no, and you know what too, and the reason why we do this, we have our information prepared, but the reason we do this too is we want people and our listeners to feel part of the conversation, like they're sitting at the table with us and having that conversation. We're not here trying to be some legacy news media, and again, not saying that's bad. That's everybody's got their own thing, and I respect that. We just want people to feel part of it. Like I said, the platform is yours. This platform's for you to be part of
Because
this.
this
Yeah.
is for them, this is for us, this is for anybody who wants to chime in. And honestly, it's what made me fall in love with your idea with this podcast, and what made me so blessed that you are allowing me to be a co-host with you here.
Mhm.
Because I'm sitting here having a conversation with my friend, going over our theories that we are gathering with our information,
Yep.
and we're sharing it with you guys. So it's not like we sat down and we went over like, we're going to talk about this, and this. And no, I have no idea what his notes are. He doesn't know what we're talking. We had an experience, and we both realized that it's funny, and we're doing our thing here, and we're going to get to the
Exactly.
bottom of this one way or another.
It-
And
it-
for the FBI agents that are out there listening to us, when you would realize that we're on to something, you guys got to wear level fours when you come for me. Just please, like,
me,
it's gonna happen eventually.
the only thing I ask with FBI is don't touch my hair. That's all I ask. Don't touch my hair.
Yeah, leave his hair alone.
You can touch my face, not my hair.
Yeah. Oh, also, if you're just planning on getting him, send me a text. You guys got my number, so I can get his chickens. I don't want them to starve. And the cats. We can't just let the cats die in there.
And the guinea pigs too. Don't forget the guinea pigs.
Yeah, the guinea pigs. I forgot the guinea pigs.
Have some common courtesy. Be gentlemen of war, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, But other than that, with the Iron Goat Trail, I think we'll have some more continuation with it. I think that there's a lot more things that we can research and discover. And by the way, like what John was saying, with anybody out there listening to this who have a lot more history and thoughts and theories, or even just like maybe some things like, hey, you guys, this is not really what correct, or quote corrections. We would love to have you on to talk about that. That's what it's about.
And even if you don't want to come on, please, if we said some things that you're like, no, this isn't right, I have information, my grandpa or my grandpa's grandpa, please correct us so that we can spread the truth. I'm not here to spread lies. I'm not here to create fabricate things for you. I'm here to get to the bottom of things. And I smelled something weird, and I'm going to chase it down.
Yeah, exactly, John. And I agree with you 100%. This is not about creating an agenda of a truth that doesn't exist. This is all theories, this is all thoughts, and we would love that too. Speaking of which, anything else, John, you want to contribute to Iron Go? Do you think we got that all taken care of?
I don't know, but I just saw an orb behind me in my camera. Did you see it?
No,
There was like literally. I wish that does this record the video too?
Yeah. Well, this I can. So this video is recorded. I can send you John the recording of the video. On the podcast doesn't have that, but I'll send you the video recording.
Oh yeah. I was talking about that. I was like, you're gonna have to do that because that was weird. I was just looking here, and behind me there was just
freaking orbs.
Anyways,
yeah.
No, I don't have much more on the Iron Goat. I mean, this was definitely one of those ones where we're just gonna throw our ideas out there and hope that maybe there's some other people that know more than we do. I'm going to keep digging into it. They haven't made it easy.
No.
And they're, weirdly enough, when you start tracking down any of the known relatives, which apparently there's still somebody that lives out in the general area. I tried to, they're so private, so unreachable, and probably for the right reasons. I mean, there's NDAs for a reason, but anyways,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So before we wrap this up, John, and by the way, I should have said this before we started. Stay on with me afterwards. Quick combo, recap our stuff. Um,
Oh yeah.
um, anything else? I know John and I talked about some ideas before in the podcast, what we're gonna do. So we're, in the future, we're hoping to do some type of hotline. I don't know if you guys back in the 90s ever heard of Love Lines with Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla. We're
It's gonna be ghost lines with Chris's hair.
yeah, exactly. And basically sharing your experiences or something you might find difficult with that you're dealing with that maybe you feel uncomfortable sharing with anybody close to you or anybody in the public sector. We're here to support and help and give people the voice and love they need. So that's something we're going to be working on. And there's other projects in the future we'll be announcing once those things come in fruition. I hope I'm appropriate saying that too, right, John?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Your bird is back.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get you.
Freaking get out of here, bird. Piss off. Piss off, bud. Piss off. Anyways, hey, so before we go and wrap this up, how can you reach us? How can you reach John and me? Well, you can send an email, boundtotruth34@gmail.com. Comments, questions, insults, love.
We're probably gonna have a phone number here too, probably by
Yeah,
the next time we throw up
we're gonna work on the phone number too, and it's not gonna be 900. So everybody get your minds out of the gutter. So yeah, putting it boundtotruth34@gmail.com, where you can definitely reach us and email your thoughts and questions, or if you want to be a person to interview on the show, we would love those. Please subscribe to Bound to Truth on Spotify, also on YouTube, Bound to Truth, now on Apple, Bound to Truth. We are also on YouTube and Twitter, Bound to Truth. Other than that, anything else, John? Anything else you want to send off, buddy?
No, I mean we're on so many platforms, and we're gonna have to make a Bound to Truth OnlyFans here soon.
You know
But it's
what,
gonna be
man?
called Only Ghost, Only Truth.
Only ghosts or
Go.
Chris hair.
Yeah. No, nothing to send the audience off other than remember, people, I can't tell you what your truth is. I can only tell you what I believe, and go do the research yourself. And if you find something, please reach out to us. I'd love to be corrected, and I'd love to learn more.
Amen, man. And by the way, everybody, remember, seek the truth. Don't let the narrative control you. Everybody, have a great, blessed night. Talk to you next time.